Hello, my name's Patrick.
And my name's Geoff, and taking painting advice from us is like taking parenting advice from the Emperor. So here we are, back again.
Back again.
And we seem to start every show with this, but a big thank you. We're hailing through the subscribers at the moment, which is really kind of you all, and we've had some really lovely comments and lots of views. That's great. So if you're viewing and you're not subscribing, pull your finger out and just press that little button down there and it'll make us smile. Me especially, because I have terrible ego issues. So if you could, it'd be really appreciated. So there we go. So
one like for one Geoff smile.
You can have one of them for free, but the next one requires a subscription. Right then, so straight in, as per usual, our review show, and it starts with, Pat, what you painting?
What am I painting? What I am always painting. this miniature from not Darren Latham and his Blood Angels tutorial that I am doing in a stupid order. I've generally forgotten all of the stuff, and now I'm just making it up as I go along.
I like the fact that all Pat's what you painting just gets followed with a mild existential crisis.
yeah. There's an amazing. Oh, is it James Acaster on like Celebrity Bake Off? And they were like, "Tell me the story of your bake," and he was like, "Started baking, had a breakdown, bon appetit." So this is I think for me, started painting, had a breakdown. But it's a very slow breakdown over months.
I like the fact that you fell off course with not Darren Latham's painting guide.
Yeah.
But you haven't gone back to sort of re-energise yourself into how it's meant to be done.
I mean, you'll see, and the viewers will see, I've shaded and edge highlighted this.
And it's exceptionally good.
This leg. And there's some mistakes in there, and I've done both legs, but then I haven't even started shading the head. I've shaded. There you go, COVID's still there. Shaded some of it, not shaded other bits. Haven't highlighted other bits, and I'm going to do the bags. I'm going to do his weapon. I'm going to do some metal bits. And what I'm going to do now is I'm thinking about shading some of the metal bits this evening.
Oh.
And then I'm going to base coat his pouches. The rubber parts. In the panels. And I'm going to do mech standard grey and then get some black Templar in over the top.
Excellent. So he's still an ongoing project, but baby steps, but looking really good though.
Maybe in a year's time, I will have thrown it away and started something else.
By the time we will eventually be so popular that Darren Latham will be on the show and we'll be able to just tell you where you're going wrong.
You just put the brushes down.
You go, but you only paint one leg. What's wrong with that?
That's it. Yeah.
You go, well, I'm not sure about the rest of it because I'm not really a man to judge them, but I can judge that leg.
Yes. I mean, to be fair, I think that's some of the better edge highlighting that I have done.
Yeah, I think it's really good.
And lulled you into a false sense of security that I'm good at painting Blood Angels.
If you haven't seen it, that's from our 30-minute challenge with Blood Angels, where I was having a crisis before it started with you having flexed your Blood Angel muscles prior to your times, and I hadn't done one before.
But this wasn't in half an hour. This has been quite a few hours. Yeah. So I paint the same old thing every week. What are you on with this week?
Oh, well, as you know, I do the opposite. It is because I just can't remain on one thing. And I am doing this Lieutenant, if we're playing just Codex Space Marine with my son's army, and a Castellan, if we're playing using the Black Templars rules, which his army's done in such a way that he can if he wants to. So, yeah, he's nearly enough done, which, as we've talked about before, which means that when I get within about 45 minutes of finishing the miniature, I have a breakdown, and then I have to then spend 7 or 8 hours fanning around with it. So tonight I'm just going to start putting a colour on the base so I can then put some crackle paint over the top of it. So in case it does have a major crack in it, it won't show through to the original colour. And then I might try and get a little bit of work, funnily enough, on the pouches myself. I've put some brown on them. But so that's generally where we're at. He's in the death throes of being done. The sword I've got to be honest, the sword needs doing, but I may well go back to Mr. Two Thin Coats himself, Duncan Rhodes, and use one of his
that
tutorials where he did 3 different versions, didn't he?
Mr. Make Masterclass a bit redundant.
That's him.
I think that's his new longer nickname. I really like that video. I think the Molten Power Sword was my favourite.
So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hold off on the sword till last, and then I'll let Mr. Rhodes give me some advice on that, and then we'll go from there. The thing I'm loving on this one is that people talk about it, and if you don't use it, it really is worth your time. I've been microsoling it every day on them shoulder pads to get them to look like they are almost painted into the miniature, as opposed to having that awful decal shine. So I'm quite pleased with him so far. He's he's going out of focus. There we are. He's like I say, he's near enough there. Get a Martian base on him, and sort out his pouches. Just put a bit of a highlight on him, and he will be finished, all being well.
I am a sucker for a Martian base.
Just looks good, doesn't it? Because it's just
so
alien-esque, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's got a nice level of drama, and then with it being that sort of orange, if you put any green tufts or anything near it, it just any tufts of grass on it. Although I know Mars hasn't got any grass, but you know.
Yeah, I put some on. I put the pale.
Yeah, I do dead tufts on. Do the dead tufts on mine, and I think it sets it off wonderfully. So yes, so that's how he will go with the rest of the army. Will be on Martian bases. So I'll get me wet palette now. It won't be dragging the focus on him. Right then, so straight into our first, as usual.
Straight in.
Port of call. I've paid me 1 CP, so I'm calling Overwatch, as usual. And it is Warhammer plus or minus. So after 3, 1, 2, 3... minus.
Yeah. Can I add a new category?
Yeah, you can have
a
new
category. I think it might just be because I've been working a lot this weekend, and you know I'd be inclined to say minus, but also, I struggle to care.
The whole point was meant to be that all the other channels had struggled to care and just stopped talking about it. And we were, this is this review show 4?
Yeah.
And already you've...
Yeah.
Melancholy has kicked in already.
I think so, yeah.
So it's eventually going to be, Warhammer, is it plus or minus? And the answer is...
Daka! No. Like, it's a minus. And it's kind of, I mean... The issue is there's just the content on there, it's few and far between. I don't like everything that gets put on there. So if it's a week where, say, there isn't an animation, or a masterclass that I feel like I get something from, then I'm just like, meh. And then even if it's a plus, it's 10 minutes on a Wednesday. Every 2 weeks, and I'm like, okay, I'll go and watch Star Wars now.
Yeah,
bye Warhammer.
Yeah, you're only there filling the void until Kenobi starts.
Yeah.
Well, I've got to be honest. We generally, I think, do our best to be very polite about the painters.
We do indeed.
But not massively happy with the verdigris episode.
There was some interesting things that I noticed with this one. The first one being all of the demonstration shots were with a model that wasn't painted on the tutorial.
Yeah.
It was the full heavy metal model, and then painted the shoulder pads
off a night,
and then it went back to the full like heavy metal Chaos Knight, and it very much reeks of Blue Peter presenters.
Yeah,
building Tracy Island.
Yeah, here's one I prepared earlier.
Yeah,
and the thing is
disingenuous.
But the thing is the difference being is that the Blue Peter presenter, for those of you who are abroad, it was a children's TV show that ran for quite a number of years on the BBC in the UK. And
is it still going?
I don't know. It might be online now, I would have thought. With the idea was they would build things potentially in real time, but every so often they would jump forward and would use the line, and here's one I prepared earlier. Well, the actual thing is here's one somebody else prepared earlier.
Yeah.
Which is exactly where we're at on this.
Yes.
And the problem being
and we're paying for it, and we're suckers.
Absolutely right. I know. And the problem being isn't it, is this thing of going, but the problem being is that here's one we prepared earlier, but you're using a heavy metal one, and then the one that you're then meant to be mimicking doesn't look the same as it. It wasn't as good.
The colours were the same, weren't they? And the recipe was the same, but the finish overall was different. I feel like on the full...
And I get that, it's two different painters, and, you know...
I mean, Aidan might have painted that one.
Yeah, he might have done.
But
but then again, Christ, I can't paint two Marines to be exactly the same shade of silver from one day to the next. So, and I get that, but this thing of wheeling something in and going, well, you know, here's what's been done previously.
Yeah.
It just... no, just... If you have to, why don't you just paint it and then show us it painted at the beginning?
Yeah.
And then work your way back to what you know, work your way to it instead of wheeling in what might be somebody else's work.
Yes, I think, yeah. It was like, I don't know who's making the decisions. As far as I'm aware, the painters get to choose what they do.
Yeah.
Or at least when I was there, that's what Louise got to do. There'll be some oversight from managers and all that sort of stuff, I guess. But I don't know, like, obviously learning a specific technique like that, I haven't seen it done before.
No.
Like, it was something that I was quite excited to see. But, like, I get the impression they're just trying to rush these out just so there's content.
Very much felt like it.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I think the colours and the ideas that they chose, and I've used that technique of them. I've used that technique of them greens before myself on Death Guard, and they do work really well. But it just this thing of going, here's watch while I do this, but it doesn't look like what I'm actually referencing. It just didn't do a lot for me.
No, it. You know, on the back of the box, it's like base coat it, wash it, heavy metal.
Yeah, I know.
Like, here's how to paint an heavy metal standard in 3 simple steps. 1, base coat. 2, wash. 3, practice for years.
Yeah.
It's just like, I mean, it's not what I'm after. Like, if I want to watch someone who's really good at painting show me just how good at painting they are, you know, maybe I'll watch Masterclass. But I'm like this. There's so many things that they could introduce to Masterclass to make the tutorials so much better that people do on YouTube, and they do it for free because they evidently really care about teaching people. It's like, hey, here's a glaze. This is the consistency. Paint on your thumb. That's incredibly helpful for someone like myself who is...
Heresy!
New. I'm going to go with new. Not,
Brother!
That's not fair.
I just have a very low opinion of myself.
It's because you're still not well. It'll pass.
Yeah, it's just bizarre. I don't get why they're not including that stuff.
Yeah.
So I get, like, I watch Aidan paint, and he's an exceptional painter. That's never in question.
No, not at all.
But as far as like a tutorial goes, I know which paints to put where and like what colours he used, but I get more instruction from Peachy and the YouTube presenters on like all the Horus Heresy videos that they've been releasing.
Yeah, absolutely right.
And I find, like, you know, they go, do an edge highlight. Now do a thinner edge highlight, which isn't overly helpful.
Yeah.
It's just like, be really good. Step 2, be even better. Whereas I feel like, say, like with Peachy specifically, he's kind of does a lot of dry brushing, and he broke out the packing sponge for the weathering and
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
like that. And it's kind of like how to get there, but how to like just be helpful and do it quickly and all that sort of stuff. Which, you know, with Masterclass, it's not about doing it quickly. It's about it being incredible. And if you're painting at that level, you're going to know the consistency of a glaze. Of course you are. And it's like, now that I've been showed that once, I'm like, okay, I kind of know that I need to take a lot of the moisture off of my brush and make sure it's thin enough. And going into the future, I'm like, okay, right, if I'm going to glaze, it roughly needs to be this.
Yeah.
But it's a shame that I had to go to, and I've talked about it before, like with video editing tutorials. The one guy that I learned everything from, every single tutorial, he's like, okay, so Command C to copy and Command V to paste.
Yeah.
And it's like, he's aware that this could be someone's first tutorial, and he's helping everyone. And I think that's what Masterclass should be doing in that regard, or just doing it better. Because, yeah, that
I think they're misusing the word master, aren't they? Masterclass is meant to be the ability to teach from Warhammer Plus, not the ability that I'm already at as the person viewing it.
Yeah.
Which is what it sometimes feels like it slides into.
Yeah.
You know, don't get me wrong, some great stuff on there as well, and really handy little bits and bobs, like Suggs' most recent one for muzzle bend for flamers and one thing or another.
Yeah.
Fine. Really good. Some nice runs of colours in there, and the transitions were really cool. And I've got a basic understanding of how to do that already, but not everybody watching it is me, and I'm far from a perfect painter, but there's a lot of people out there who are a good number of steps below me. So some of that I think was really good, but yeah, some of it I just think it seems to be like almost like there's just steps missing in the procedure, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
I think, yeah, because they're actively choosing to not show, say, paint consistencies. And it just seems a bit, just a little bit silly. I'd like it for a minimal amount of effort, they could make them significantly better tutorials.
Yeah.
And they seem to be choosing not to, and I don't know why.
Yeah, again, it just feels like the increasing of the cutting of corners just seems to have finally made its way into Masterclass as well, and I think that's a pretty sad state of affairs, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. So normally big supporter of a lot of Masterclass, but yeah, not floating my boat at the moment.
No, with a lack of animations as well. It's just like, you know, I mean, it's not going to change. Certainly not overnight. I get the impression that if it was going to change, steps would have been put in place already for it to change.
I think they need to be really given some thought as to where they're going now, because as will be discussed later, the exclusive miniatures are going to start coming out, are starting to make their way out to people now.
Yep. And
I think there'll be a lot of people deciding that once they've got that and their year is up, that will be it. Unless they're unless the following year the miniature is something utterly amazing, I think there will be people who will be going, "Nah, do you know what? Got my miniature. That didn't turn out to be all that impressive, and I'm done." You know.
Yeah.
And I think they've got to be very careful with that, or they'll be on a high road to nowhere, I think, come the second year.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I think that will be the test.
So yeah, that pretty much, I think, for me is where I'm at with regards to Warhammer Plus. That's been 2 minuses in a row for me, and you've just already fell into a melancholic despair with it, haven't you?
I think I have, yeah.
already took 4 episodes. I'd had to bet with my wife. I thought it was going to take you at least 6, but yeah, there you go, 4.
Yeah. So the first Sigmar Hammer and Bottle came out.
Yeah.
And it's all right. Like, it is all right. But I find myself at the minute,
dropping that there, and it wasn't even a 30-minute challenge.
And that sword.
I know, so easily go.
Was that the one that you broke already?
Yeah. Do you know what though? This is the one I broke already. And then do you know what? My clumsiness had gone a step further and broke the sword off a different miniature, which funnily enough was one I now no longer needed. So we now got a bigger sword. That's not his sword. It's one off the original Gravis Captain that came from the Dark Imperium box. And I realised he was getting retired because the new one was a far nicer miniature. So I thought,
that first Gravis, the pregnant one.
Yeah. He's been retired before he even ever seen the battlefield, bless him.
Yeah, he's on maternity.
Yeah, he's on maternity. Yeah, so he's been retired for the more dynamic one. And
why would you not?
And he's never seen the battlefield again, bless him, because he's now hasn't got a sword.
Yeah.
So Arcane then League of Legends was
so this is kind of like Warhammer is a big entity. Games Workshop has a lot of money and they're putting out mediocre animations.
Yeah.
Whereas Arcane on Netflix, based in the League of Legends universe, is so good.
I haven't watched it. I need to pull my finger out and have a look at it.
Like, get it watched. It's because it's like, I mean, it cost a lot of money. They invested way more than Games Workshop would have put into Warhammer Plus. But it's the artistry, the storytelling. It's very, very good. And you watch it at the end, and you're like, oh, these are the names of the people that made it. That's interesting.
Yeah.
It's done properly. And it's fantastic. And I can't help but compare Warhammer Plus to that, because that is what other companies are doing.
Yeah.
So I know that Games Workshop likes to keep everything, like, they even keep their marketing in-house. Like, the marketing department, everyone sort of raves about them with the stock of Games Workshop. The marketing department was created here, and then look at the stock, it goes up. The marketing department, they put things on their own website and market to people that already like Warhammer, that buy all the new stuff every week anyway. Like, I never see any adverts for games. Like, I think Imperium Magazine got some adverts. I think I got a TV advert.
Yeah, it did. I think they always do on like the launch, don't they? I don't know if they did for the second run of the magazine.
No.
But the original one did. And I remember when they had... Because they had a Lord of the Rings magazine as well back in the day.
Oh, right.
And that had an advert as well.
Yeah.
But that's obviously mostly being funded by the magazine company, I would have thought.
Yeah, quite possibly.
Yeah.
But, I mean, people always call it plastic crack, don't they? So if they're like, right, Tim, I just plucked a random name out of my head.
So it's not my Tim. It's not my friend Tim.
Obviously, yeah. So me and my mate
Because if it was, we'll go around and have a word with him.
Yeah, me and your mate Tim. And we're like, right, okay, we've got this smack. What should we do? And we're like, give it to people that are already hooked. Okay, cool. Yeah. What, should we get more people hooked on it? Nah, be right. They'll figure it out eventually.
Yeah.
Like, and it clearly works for them. And they're at, as far as I'm aware, their factory was at capacity. They built a second one for production, and that is at capacity already. Like, they need to build a third.
Yeah.
So there is a risk of marketing and the demand being too high and the growth being difficult. But like, they're quite sort of insular and keep it all in. I want to control everything.
Yeah.
Which is a way of guaranteeing quality. But I think, like, with the TV side of things, it's different.
Yeah.
And I think
you have to relinquish some level of control.
They've tried to take it themselves. Like, they've done everything. Like, they do every single element they do themselves. But with this, it's like, right, well, we'll do the animation ourselves. We'll do the battle reports ourselves. And it's like, oh, they're crap. Why?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny you say that, because I've been searching around for some new things to watch while I paint. And I started recently getting into The Man in the High Castle on Amazon. And the showrunner on that was the guy who, pre-COVID, was the one who was talking about the fact that he was going to be doing the Eisenhorn TV series.
Oh.
And then I noticed that as I started thinking about, watching The Man in the High Castle, I was reading through on IMDb, and it's finished. It's done. It's done. It's served its course.
Yeah.
And you're going, but I haven't heard any mention that of moving on to the next project, and that might be COVID. It might be responsible for pushing everything back, but there's been no mention, and I think that's a bit of a shame, because I thought, by now you'd have thought they'd have been at least talking about pre-production on it and one thing or another.
And like they I think in an earnings report recently or something, they made a reference to it.
Oh, did they?
So like, as it still appears to be happening.
Oh, good.
But I imagine it's gonna be a while. Like, these things take a while.
Yeah.
And they've got to try and clone Henry Cavill for every single role.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm thinking, come on, let's stick your toe in the water and let's get going and get something on proper television. You think every bloomin' comic book is being turned into a bloomin' TV show or a movie at the moment. You can't. Some things are bloomin' getting turned into TV shows before they bloomin' writing the comics even as a first issue.
I mean, the amount of stories you could tell in the universe would be
Christ, yeah,
would be incredible. There'd be there'd be no end of content, and everybody seems to be going down the line of like, okay, cinematic universe, and obviously Marvel have done it really well. DC with mixed success. What was Tom Cruise and the Mummy? They tried that, didn't they?
Yeah, they were going to go back into all the old Universal monsters, wouldn't they?
Yeah, and that was
didn't
a bit
really
pants.
take off, did it?
But I think Warhammer would be certainly could be up there if it was handled.
Well, the thing is, I think increasingly, we have a lot of ensemble TV now, don't we? Where you get a lot of shows with big casts.
Yeah.
If you look at, for example, The Boys, it's got quite a big cast.
Have you watched any of season 3?
Yeah, I have. You just can't wash your brain, can you?
I saw they were like, oh, they took Ant-Man going into Thanos' ass really seriously, and oh my god, but
that was the bit where my wife was sort of watching it was hovering over the top of watching something on YouTube that didn't require sound. I don't know what it was, and she went. It was just one of them conversations you don't want to have. My wife went, "Did he run up his arse?" And I went, "No, he didn't." She went, "I'm sure he did." I went, "No, he didn't run up his arse." And she went, "Can you rewind it?" And I was like, "Do I have to?" To rewind it, she went, "Oh no, he really didn't. No, he really didn't run up his arse. No, it's worse than that."
Yeah, yeah. Do you think moving forwards? Because obviously, if we Warhammer plus or minus at some stage will just be like minus. But here's what we've been watching instead. And
it might have to get to that, mightn't it? It's a funny one for me, The Boys, because I always want to grumble about it because the fact that I read the comic book series, and the fact that it ran its course before the TV show had even started, unlike The Walking Dead, where I think the problem The Walking Dead had was that a comic book only takes about, if you were turning a comic book into TV footage, it would only take about 10-12 minutes of screen time.
Okay.
Because you read slower than you listen.
Yeah.
And action scenes on screen can some people being shot can be a couple of seconds, where there'll be 7 or 8 frames of a comic book. And I think the worry was the Game of Thrones problem was they didn't want to get in front of the comic. So they started inventing all of these other plots to try and slow it down.
Ah, right.
And then it just started to just increasingly write itself into corners that it couldn't get out of. And that's the only way out of this is to change this dramatically or kill that character or do this.
Yeah.
And, and eventually, and I know it's just a nerdy thing to go, oh, it's not as good as the comic. But, you're sitting there going, what are you doing? But I understood that it was to try and put speed bumps in between them and the speed that the comic was coming out.
Yeah,
because the problem being is you get a comic once a month, but you get a TV show once a week.
Yeah.
So it's you're always in that problem. But the thing for me with The Boys was the comic was all done and dusted by a good number of years by the time they started the TV show.
Yeah.
So there was no reason not to just follow the comic book.
I mean, I guess the reason will be we think people will like this. We want it to be going for more years,
yeah,
so we can make more money.
But there's sometimes in it I watch it and go, oh, that's just a really. Why are you complicating that when in the comic book it was approached in a much more simpler manner, you know?
Okay.
And then, but in spite of that, I find myself really enjoying the boys.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing that pulls me out of it is Carl Urban's British accent. Like when he shouts, he just sounds like a New Zealander.
Right. I'm going to, in defence of Carl Urban.
I love Carl Urban.
Carl Urban can do an amazing range of accents.
Yes.
Sometimes all in the same sentence. Yeah, it's awful. It is. It's awful. He can go from sounding Cockney through doing through a quick visit through sort of like through Birmingham and then over to Australia, then into New Zealand. And it's funny because his American accent, when he does American accents, he's really good at them.
And I rewatched Dredd recently.
Oh, and his Dredd voice is great.
He's so good in Dredd.
Oh, yeah, he is.
He's fantastic. And there's not a single slip-up anywhere.
No.
Whereas this one, I think it's like, yeah. And then it's like, g'day. Like, obviously, it's not like that, but like, yeah. So if you're thinking about having Amazon Prime for a month or Warhammer Plus, get Amazon Prime. Get Amazon Prime instead.
And then if you really like Amazon Prime, the plan is that if they do go or get ahead with the Eisenhorn TV series, it's going to go on Amazon Prime anyway.
Is it Amazon that bought it?
Yeah, I think it's Amazon is where it's due to go. So then you can just stay and still get your Warhammer content as well. That would be great, wouldn't it?
That would be hilarious when there's like a top tier TV series. Hopefully, if it's produced by Amazon, and then you'd be like, "What else can I find?" You'd be like, "Well, you can have 10 minutes of Hammer and Bolt every 2 weeks."
Yeah.
And then if you're lucky, you might get an episode of Deep Strike every quarter.
Someone said to me, "Oh well, surely Eisenhorn will just go on to Warhammer Plus." You're like, "Not on your Nelly. It's going to need a lot more people than that watching it."
Yeah. And Games Workshop don't have the funds to produce a series of that quality.
God no.
Hell no. Like Arcane was millions and millions. So and that would literally be. I mean, they've had bumper years the past 2 years where they've made sort of 100 million profit.
Wow.
And it would be like all of that.
Yeah.
To make that series. It's a risk that they can't really take. Like, if they go with Amazon funds it, they will keep the majority of the money, I would imagine, but it just eliminates that risk of doing it themselves. And as we've seen with Warhammer Plus.
Yeah.
Like the rumour has it, they're happy with the amount of subscriptions they have and the money, and the money coming in, but maybe it doesn't have to be that much. Like, if it just covers the wages for all of the staff that are working on it, then maybe that's enough.
Do you know, I would potentially even go out on a limb and say, do you know what, I'd potentially maybe quite happy to have more human beings on Warhammer Plus.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think maybe, maybe have a good, instead of like trying to push out some animation all the time, maybe just keep it and do really good animation. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just put something out once or twice a year that was really like benchmark level, like the way Astartes is.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that's what they're doing now.
Maybe they are.
Because like of all of the series, like that we had, I think the two that I enjoyed were Angels of Death, and even though that had some moments where you were just like, was that a potato?
Yeah, it was a bit ropey at times.
And then Interrogator. But yeah, I would like a fully fledged, even like if it's a limited 6-part series, 6 or 8 episodes.
Yeah.
But the production's just like banging.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Was always talk about Eisenhorn, but we're saying about ensemble casts like The Boys, or like The Walking Dead, or things like that, and you could do Gaunt's Ghosts.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is you go, oh well, they're massive battles, but you go, the amount of CGI you can just fill in the background on things now.
Yeah.
Yeah. 40k tanks aren't a particularly complex looking vehicle to just have 25 of them rolling across in the background. You know, they're not hard.
It'd be like you're playing the MS-DOS game Tanks, like the
Yeah,
wireframe one.
yeah. You know, they're not particularly complex, are they? So, you know, I quite like Gaunt's Ghost, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it just wouldn't be the hardest, you know. Christ, you could have 3 episodes just set in a quarry every blooming series, couldn't you? You know?
Yeah.
And I'd still be quite happy. You know, but, well, it's, I think they'll probably be in
So you're in charge of, so let's do it. You've got 100 million quid.
Yes.
And you can make your Warhammer series. What are you doing?
Oh, I'd like to say...
You're doing Gaunt's Ghost.
I'd like to say I'd do Gaunt's Ghost. And the reasons I think Gaunt's Ghost could work to some degree. I know it's a hard to sell because a lot of people like the time period I'm about to mention them. And the Gaunt's Ghosts is a quite an unusual time period for non-Warhammer fans. But just think about how much sharp you got. And everyone loved that.
Yeah.
And you had tough, the leader,
Yeah.
the sharpshooter, the drunk, the this, the that. And you go, well, all of them characters are blatantly in Gaunt's Ghost.
Well, and it's like...
You're just doing sharp in the 41st century, you know what I mean?
And like, say like Top Gun, obviously that's come out, and you look at the trailer, like I haven't seen the film yet, and it's like, okay, so Tom Cruise is that character, that one is like the cocky... guy, and then here's the woman that needs to prove herself, and then there's the nerdy guy, and that's
well, they've done. I don't know if they did one or they did more, but they did. Dan Ednett, who I think is the best 40k writer, who did Eisenhorn and did Gaunt's Ghost. He did one called Double Eagle, which was about the guys that fight the fighter planes in the Imperium.
Oh right.
I don't know whether there was more than one book. I only read the first one. If there was more, please do let me know. But that was great. And you go, you know, there's like, I think that just the hardest part is trying to convince people of the 41st millennium, isn't it? Because it's so far future, and having to sort of say the human race has been on its arse a couple of times and come back from like the Dark Ages, and we've had this godlike character who's been living here forever and a day, and then finally reveals himself. And nothing to see here, Pat. No, just ignore that bit.
Yeah. So here's what I do. I'd like do that crappy thing where you're like, just have a bit of text on screen. You know, Star Wars. In a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah.
You'd be like, 41st millennium, load of shit's happened. Here we are. I would keep the main characters human.
Yeah.
So no Space Marines, because I think.
Yeah, we talked about this before. They're really dry.
You'd have to relate to your characters, and I think that was something in Angels of Death that I struggled with, because it's just like, oh, instead of firing my gun immediately, I'm just gonna do a couple of stanzas and just like wail and blah 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 blah. Yeah. Sometimes it worked. Sometimes, like, my favorite part of the series was when the chaplain like kicked down the wall. Yeah. And it's just like, purge the unclean, and you're just like, yes, and he beheads someone. Yeah. Fantastic. So get a bunch of humans in there. They're gonna have to, because they talk about, you know, it's all satire, and when real life Nazis are just like, hey, I connect with the Imperium of Man, they're great. Yeah. Nazis are also great. They do put out a statement and go, guys, it's not real, which is good. So I think what I would do would be a group of humans that, you know, obviously they're humans, so they would be in the Imperium, but they're aware that it has its shortcomings, and so have some alien characters in there. Yeah. And talk about Space Marines like, you know, they are as sort of rare as they are. And
you know, that sort of thing. Oh, you're striding around there like you're a Space Marine, but you wouldn't see one. It would just be, and then whenever you did reveal them, it would be that like moment when you see them. You know what I mean?
It would be like the. I mean, obviously, it wouldn't have the amount of gravitas. Hopefully, it would. Of Luke Skywalker coming to save Baby Yoda.
No, but I know what you mean. Yeah, but it would be that sort of thing.
Just like, we're screwed. What can possibly get us out of this impossible situation? Space Marines.
Well, it's like, you know, they brought them in the Eisenhorn novel, but the first Eisenhorn novel. But before you'd seen a Space Marine, you'd seen a Chaos Marine first.
I remember you telling me this.
Yeah. And, you know, and you know, and that worked really well. So, I think that's why I think if you went Gaunt's Ghost, is that they generally fight the same bad guys, which is the Blood Pact, which are basically Traitor Guard. Yeah. Who wear these like metal masks on the bottom half of their face, who are all, you know, baby-eating maniacs.
Yes.
You know, and then, you know, they're all covered, you know, like their armour will have spikes on the back with skulls on it, and you go, well, they're blatantly the bad guys.
Yes. Yeah.
And the great thing is you then, even though the humans coming from a really dubious background, you don't really need to massively go into it.
No.
And, you know, and I think for all the Gaunt Ghosts, no, they come from quite a nice forestry world, because they all become like a regiment the way they're meant to be, like scouts sort of guys.
Oh, okay.
You know, they hunt and live normal, so they live like log cabin sort of existence and all the rest of it.
Ah, right. Okay,
And, you know, and you're going, so for as far as they know, the Imperium is inside their little sphere of awareness.
Yeah.
The Imperium's not bad.
And I think, like, obviously, the Imperium being, like, you know, a dictatorship and so on and so forth, is, like, that can be put over there.
Yeah.
And you can just be like, oh, this is it. You have your little bit of text on screen at the start. You know, the Imperium of Man was formed with the Emperor of Mankind.
Yeah.
And he sits on a throne. You know, that's a whole different thing. But some people worship him now, and aliens generally aren't like very much. I think I would have, you'd have, like, buddy cop, you know. You'd have an Imperial Guardsman and, like, a Tau or an Eldar or something.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, through circumstance, you're on the ship and you have to work together.
Yeah.
And they start off hating each other. And then, little do they know, they're soon going to, it could be a rom-com. They're soon going to become best friends. And then have that Michael Bay shot where they're just like, and the camera's spinning around. And they realise that, you know, they have more in common through murdering a common enemy. So we can still keep it nice and grimdark.
Yeah.
But you could have that, like, you know, you'd be like, you're Tau, you're gross. And he's like, you're human, you're gross. It'd be like, but if we don't work together, we're going to die.
I think the other thing as well is that if you look at with regards to regiments with the Imperial Guard, if you did Gaunt Ghosts in their sort of slightly more laid back way of how they get on with getting stuff done, and the fact that, like I say, they're scouty and they're quite cool and all the rest of it. But then you bring them into contact with, like, highly regimented men who are massively under the thumb, and the planet they are massively reflects the Imperium.
Yeah.
And then you can, you know, you have them team them up and go, Christ, what's going on with these guys? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In fact, they did in one of the books, the Gaunt Ghost had to go to, or the Tanith as they're called, the Tanith had to go to a planet, and it was like humans versus humans, one lot, and turned on the other lot. And it was very much like the First World War, but they were all dressed like, you know, like First World War Prussians, you know, like spiked helmets and uniforms that wearing the right colour for war, you know, bright blue and all the rest of it. And they, you know, and it sort of then showed them going, Christ, what's going on here, you know? So yeah, I think there's ways of being able to sort of show them as the good guys without having to go into they're all xenophobic maniacs. You can just stay away from that, you know. Yeah. Like say if you keep them in their little bubble of how they see the world or how they see the galaxy.
Yeah.
So I think Telly it's definitely got legs. And to be fair, I think Games Workshop are going to have to give in and go Telly, because I don't think there's much else left for them.
No.
They've got video games pretty much sewn up.
I mean, they've got crap video games sewn up.
Yeah, but the problem being is the big companies they're
not
Activision and all the rest of them aren't going to take on their license, because they've got their own licenses that they do really well. You go, you know, who is it makes... Is it Activision that do Call of Duty?
There's a bunch of people that do Call of Duty now.
But you go, instead of making Call of Duty 98, make this instead. And I go, no, why would we do that?
Nah, it'll be all right.
No,
so they're going to other developers.
They go, maybe in a push we do Star Wars, but I'm not touching that. You know.
Yeah.
So that's why it's always smaller companies that they make video games with.
Yeah, like I'm looking forward to Space Marine 2.
Yeah, because I enjoyed Space Marine 1.
Like the Grey Knights game that came out recently. Strategy games have never massively been my thing. I mean, I played a bit of Command and Conquer.
The Grey Knight game that came out, that where all the publicity for it looked like they were holding Andy Serkis hostage.
Yeah, that's the one. Apparently, when they did that interview with him on the rider, it was like, don't ask me to do the Gollum voice.
I'd love to have seen him doing the Gollum voice while doing Space Marine dialogue. That's just been genius for it.
Oh dear.
But the aliens likes us. No, they don't.
Oh, dearie me. What have we descended into?
Yes. Anyway, so there we go. So Warhammer Plus still need to kick up the arse, and Games Workshop basically have to accept if they're going to move it forward, they're going to have to go and get on the telly.
Yeah,
in a nutshell.
I think like it all depends on the miniature, and I think, are they putting the prices up next year? Is it going up like?
Oh, of course they will. Of course they will.
So
I'll be stunned if it doesn't.
For me to buy it again, the price would ideally have to remain the same. The miniature would have to be really good, and a roadmap of
what was coming out
out. Because I think buying it for a year has just been.
It's been such a massive gamble, hasn't it?
It's been quite painful.
Yeah.
So, for me, I think realistically, I will just wait until all of the episodes of Astartes have come out, and then just buy a month and watch them all in a couple of hours, probably. Maybe not even that.
No.
Yeah, a couple of hours, that's an entire movie. No, they're not doing that. No. Of course they're not doing it.
I was thinking, how many series are you watching? A couple of hours?
I'm going to watch it all in 27 minutes. and then never go back to it.
You see, the problem being, is that it just doesn't feel like it's just going to go anywhere.
No.
And it's just like second year, I'm already down on it. I'll only be getting the second year, really, so I can keep talking. I was going to say keep spitting it off. That's really not fair. So I can keep talking about it on here.
Yeah.
You know, merely being the main reason I would go back to...
Well, let's go halvesies on a subscription.
Maybe that sounds like the right way to do it. So... Oh, we got right into it there on Warhammer. Warhammer plus minus. Warhammer plus minus.
Yeah, Warhammer plus or meh. Yeah. Sorry, I've been a bit down on Warhammer Plus this week, but yeah, I just have like visions of myself as a 60-year-old man, and we go minus. That's 798 in the minus column, and then there'll be your brain in a jar, like a Futurama head in a jar, just being like, yeah, I didn't enjoy it.
Oh, anyway, enough of that. Quick reviews with regards to what's recently or is coming out. No, it's not. It's more of a look ahead than a review as such.
So the guard stuff was leaked, isn't it?
Yeah, it was leaked.
They made a reference to it, and they were like, "Put away that potato."
Yeah,
and it's like maybe get some better staff.
Yeah, maybe. that's Sandra the cleaner sacked.
Terrible.
Or whoever it was. But yes, so they've released some shots of some new Imperial Guard. They haven't released everything that was in the potato can photograph, but they've released enough, I think, to wet our whistles, because there's still a command squad which they think might be new or at least upgraded, a new commissar, and some heavy weapon squads. So the first one that they've gone with is they are showing the new Ursula Creed, who is the daughter of the original Castellan Creed, her dad, who was, as far as I understand it, I don't read the books, but from as far as I understand it, was taken away to be part of the collection of some demented, I think, Dark Eldar sort of character. So
I think they've spelt her name wrong. Shouldn't it say Miss Trunchable?
She's a sturdy girl. But her dad was sturdy.
Looks like she's going to put someone in a chokey.
Oh, absolutely right, yeah. Yeah, absolutely right. She's like a very she looks like a very formidable security guard in a shopping centre. Yeah.
Someone you'd be like, nah, I'm not going to steal anything today.
No.
Yeah, which, is,
I think maybe you could out-sprint her, but not me, could out-sprint her, but, you know. But,
does she have a gun?
She's got the two pistols at the front, like her dad. Her dad was a double, was two pistols. But I like the fact that...
I like the head with the helmet.
Yeah, quite unusual, like, unique helmet that she's got compared to the rest of the Cajuns, which is a bit strange, but I also like the idea of the fact of being important enough that you can have your own artificer make something that just is, just purely for you. But yeah, I quite like this model. It's got loads of swagger to it. I think as well, it's nice as well that they haven't just gone thin-waisted, big-boobed female character. I like the fact that she's sort of reflects like she's got dad's genes of being like a sturdy, gruff-looking sort of... That's the belief that that's dad's jacket that had been left behind in the fight and whenever he was taken away, with the big holes in the back of it, which is quite cool. So there's some story and lore attached to it, which I think is cool.
I do appreciate that. Yeah.
She comes with alternate hands as well. There's one where she's got like a sort of staff of office, or you can have her with a set of binoculars as well. Which, I like that. I think it oozes character.
Yeah.
And I'd rather have that than just some sort of pin-up style character, than some sort of pin-up style 40k character.
Yeah.
Not to be fair, 40k doesn't do a lot of that with the female humans. I think they try and make them as sort of realistic as possible. But yeah, really liking that. So that's quite nice to look forward to that coming out. And then the reimagining of the Kassakan, who were originally out in metal. They were the Cadians' version of Stormtroopers. There'd been at least a couple of versions of Stormtroopers before the Cadians got their relaunch. And when they did, they made some unique Stormtroopers for them. Everyone bought them and just used them as Stormtroopers for whatever regiment they were playing anyway, because they were so cool. So they've shown the first one of them. And to be fair, as someone who owns the original models still, not a lot different. Little bits here and there, but generally very, very similar. The details probably been ramped up a little bit, but I like that. I think they've made them into plastic, but they haven't completely changed them. Yeah, good sort of high-tech sort of looking.
Yeah, I think on that full image, is it those guys that
have
like...
in the near ground,
yes, yeah, and they look really cool.
Cool.
Yeah, I think they look really cool.
Yeah.
I like the helmets.
Yeah, they're really cool.
Reminiscent of, like they look like quite World War II, like gas masks and visors and that kind of thing.
But I like as well, it also looks like, if you can imagine that under all of that gear, it's still the original Cadian Guardsman, but with just more stuff added onto it.
Yeah.
They've taken away the las gun and they've given them these, I think they're called Hellfire Guns. And it's meant to be very much the Cadian helmet, but with just a gas mask rather than a torch on the side of it. But yeah, it looks good. Yeah, I can't get too excited about them because they look very much like they originally did, just souped up a little bit and in plastic.
Yeah.
And then the one that seems to be really dividing opinion at the moment is the Sentinel. Don't mind it myself personally.
People not a fan?
No, there's a lot of people aren't a fan. They think it looks a little bit too sleek, a little bit too normal sort of sci-fi, as opposed to having that sort of, very rivet heavy sort of bolted together sort of feel of 40k. They think it looks a little bit more generic science fiction. I think it's fine myself personally, but I haven't got skin in the game because I don't play Imperial Guard. But that's not to say I might not end up with some that will end up working for the Gene Stealer cult, because they can take them. So I am sort of keeping half an eye on them and thinking I might end up with them. But personally, I think they look fine.
Yeah, I like it's quite like a simple design.
Yeah.
But I like it.
It's got a little bit less Scout Walker than the last one, which I actually think isn't necessarily a bad thing. So yeah. So from the Imperial Guard releases, I think they're fine. I'll be interested to see if over the next few days they maybe show some more, or have they only just shown the things that were at the foreground in the photograph that they really had to go in with.
They were like, right, okay, what do people see? What do we have to release?
Yeah,
and
right.
yeah, the things that you mainly saw, she was super close
to the camera.
Those guys are on the front line, and you see the Sentinels.
So it's big enough that it was. Yeah, you couldn't help but notice it. So
I feel kind of bad. Well, I mean, I also don't, but they've had quite a lot of leaks recently.
Yeah.
Like they need to and then they're like, damn, and they're putting all this out probably a lot earlier than they
wanted to. Yeah, because there still isn't a confirmed release date yet.
No.
For Guards, I know they've now put the release date out for Chaos Marines, that they'll be some point in this month. I would say probably the same.
I noticed another wonderful article from the marketing department at Games Workshop.
Yeah.
About the Possessed again.
Yeah. See, the only thing everyone now, me included, because the Possessed are in the Death Guard army as well. They're going to go. Are they going to give us an FAQ to go? You can have the rules from the Chaos Marines, or will we have to wait till 10th edition before we get the better versions of Possessed? I don't know. So there's that, and then we've got League of Voltan, haven't we?
We do indeed.
Yes. So this robot, which we've we've got this robot which is called what's he called?
Iron Kin.
Oh yeah, the Iron Kin. Mechanical members of the League. People far smarter than myself said they thought there'd be a stronger likelihood that there would be robots in the new army for the. I just so desperately want to just still keep calling them the squats, but anyway.
I mean, they
are for the Votans anyway. But yeah, really, It's one of them miniatures where it looks like it's doing everything all at once, doesn't it? It reminds me very much of the robots from the Adeptus Mechanicus.
Yes.
And I sort of like that. I like the idea that if you go back far enough, everything worked off one template.
Yes.
Before they split off and went.
They've kind of
it broke.
Reached a fork in the road.
But this is quite interesting because he sort of looks like he's built for having a fight, but at the same point in time, he's very much a worker, isn't he? He's got all his spanners and everything. I think my wife could have done with him round the house of the week when I was making an absolute half-arsed attempt to hang in a mirror. But it's. Do you know what though? Full of character. It's quite unusual, the idea of having a robot wearing a big blacksmith's apron.
It's cool.
It's very unusual, and I do like it. I would argue, and I don't necessarily say this as a bad thing, doesn't feel very 40k. But I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing because I remember a lot of people going, it doesn't feel very 40k when Tau came out. Because they were like nothing else.
Because they're very clean.
And they were very, very obviously Japanese manga sort of mech inspired. And this is again it feels. I'm saying generically sci-fi, which sounds like it's an insult to it, or I'm putting it down. I'm really not. It just feels. I like the idea that it's something that's human. It's got all the hallmarks of things coming from the human element of 40k, but massively from the past or from a very different sort of branch of how it's done. And I have a lot of time for it. Tell you what, it really does make me interested to see what else is in that army, because I think a lot of imagination's gone into that in a lot of ways, and like I say, it harks back to Adeptus Mechanicus stuff, but then massively sort of is its own thing at the same time. Yeah. I'm quite liking that. So I think the releases we've had.
I prefer the Ironkin to the hoverbike. That was,
really?
Yeah. That was released like a
I
while
like
ago.
the hoverbike personally, but that it's quirky. It's just really unusual, and I'm all for it. And I think if it's quite good that in the army that's obviously sort of something that's designed to be doing. I assume welding and repairing and one thing or another. And I think then, what it is buddies that are just there for cracking skulls will look like will be quite cool. So I'm all over that. I think it looks cool, and I can't wait to see the whole army released to see what it all looks like together, because I think it looks like it's going to have some quite interesting synergies going on with regards to the mechanical side of things. All over that. And it's showing the photographs of the backpack on the back and all the power sources and stuff on it. Liking that. I think the League of Ultron were something to be to look forward to seeing them coming out whenever that may be. But
I mean, I assume they'll get a 9th edition codex release.
Yeah, do that thing where they get a 9th edition codex just in time for them to end up in the 10th edition codex.
So when will 10th edition come out? 2023?
Well, they normally say, don't they? They normally give them about every 3 or 4 years, don't they?
Yeah.
So, to be honest, I could really do with it not coming out for a while. I feel like I'm only just getting my head around 9th edition,
Yeah.
I go, no, I'm all right, thank you. I can wait a while.
Yeah.
But the thing is, as well, people forget is you don't have to.
No, just play old editions.
Just play 9th edition till you're ready to move up.
Yeah.
I think where they get you is they bring in new units that only exist in 10th, and you go, and you can't
field. Yeah, that
you
makes
can't
sense.
field them because you go, well, I don't know how they're going to work, and how would you put that together for 9th? So, but there's Facebook pages out there of people who are still playing 3rd edition who love it.
Right, cool.
And Horus Heresy is basically 7th edition.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I hear that's like a nostalgia trip.
Yeah, apparently
playing Horus Heresy.
So there's no law saying you have to move up, but the problem being is new model syndrome makes you want to. I think, doesn't it? You go, I've got to have, the FOMO of new toys in a new box.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
but the
I mean, you do, Geoff. You have to have them. It's been said. So I think the previews for this. In fact, they were only today, weren't they? Yeah.
Let's see them straight away.
At the time of recording, they
were
came out
today. Yep, so pretty cool. So then, moving on to our overview. Talked about counted down, didn't we, the other week? And lo and behold, we have here, let's move that out the way so it's not anyone's way. We've got the Assassin.
From your Warhammer Plus subscription.
Warhammer Plus subscription. Here he is in all his glory.
Well, notice that I am Orcless because I don't have the 40k app.
Because
so,
you didn't, yeah. So you have got,
so
unfortunately,
you got
way nearer
yours.
the 12 months than I got mine.
A second-class citizen in terms of Warhammer Plus.
I'm afraid so, my man.
Subscribership.
But yeah, so here he is. So as you've seen on all the photographs, he's nestled in the. I was going to say nestled in the bust of a Sisters of Battle, but that comes across sounding a bit naughty. But I think, in actual fact, the statue would have been the bust of one if you take it by its actual terms. But yeah, so that's what it looks like from the front. And then the eagle-eyed amongst you will notice that I've got some super glue in there, which was so that I could just put it together enough for you to see it in all together like so, and then get the detail on the back of it. But what I'll do now is I will take that off, put that down, and there is the Assassin, the Vindica Assassin with his horrendously large sniper rifle.
That is ludicrously big, isn't it?
72 inches, fires on the table. Yeah, it's ginormous.
Wow.
And I don't know what the rules for it are currently, but I think it used to be if you got a headshot, if you rolled a 6 or something, you could just keep. If you just kept rolling them.
Oh right.
Yeah,
wow.
It was deadly. Yeah, but that's so. There he is. And pretty cool. But the big question is, how do you field him in a game when he comes with when he's attached to a big piece of scenery? I don't know what the score is with him. It's whether he's meant to be treated.
Did he come with his own set of rules? Has he got?
Came with weapon rules like them.
Yeah.
They're just them very minor ones that they give you. But
is it the same rules as the current Assassin that you can buy?
Well, look, I think the most recent Assassin rules, if I remember rightly, are still 8th edition.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So yeah. So I don't know what the score is with him, but I can't imagine the idea is going to be that you shuffle him around in the scenery around the table. I know the idea is they sometimes go miss miniature always counts as being in cover.
Yeah.
But literally moving around with cover would seem a little bit bizarre, wouldn't it? Yeah. So that might be the way they do it. I don't know.
He has his own little bush.
Yeah,
he just constantly
moves around with. See, because I thought if he's going to be a diorama, which is still cool, because it's ace. It's a really nice miniature. Would make a good It's a good diorama piece. I'd have thought they'd have gone with a bigger base. See, that is the base that he would. That's the base size he would be on.
To make him playable in the game, right?
Yeah. So I don't know what the score is with him as yet as what you do with regards playing him. I'm not sure. But
is it just a cool looking miniature that they wanted?
Yeah, absolutely right. And it worked for me. It made me sign up.
Yeah.
So yeah, but if you are looking at it and going, oh god, there's a load of mould lines on that. I know. I just hastily put it together for you guys who haven't got one as yet to be able to see it. But
so the feet and that
platform
that he's on is
actually the base, the platform, the body, everything but the arms, the head, the rifle, and
it's all one piece.
Was all one piece, yeah. Yeah.
So I guess you could just not build it with this on.
Yeah, you could do. Yeah,
that. That still looks like.
See, the thing is you could go right. Well, I'm just going to knock that off, put that on that base, put some rubble up there, angle it so the weapon isn't pointing as near to the ground. But then by the time you've done all that, you can go out and there's still a perfectly good Vindica Assassin model on the shelf where he's actually leaning up against a bit of wall like he's about to pop around it and take a snapshot.
Yes.
It's really lovely. And you'd be destroying a nice diorama piece for the sake of making him playable. So this is the quandary with me to go, I'm not quite sure what he does or how he works. But yeah, it was still nice to, very, very much nice to get him in the post. And I am looking forward to building him. I'm going to, it will probably be, going by the box art, the sister will probably the sister rune will probably be my first go at trying out the dirty down
the rust
and the verdigris as well. Yeah. So but I love this. I really love. I think it's great.
Yeah.
And and it still has detail on the inside of it. So the idea is that it looks like you are looking into the back of a statue. There's the rivets and all the supports for how it would be from the other side. So I think it's it's nicely done, and like I'm just not quite sure what you're meant to do with it. But yeah, I think it's cool. I do think it's cool. It has led me to think, because we don't own of it, me and my son, when we're putting his army together, we haven't as yet got hold of a Vindica Assassin, and now I'm thinking, do I need two? Do I need that one? And then when he moves out of cover, we have another one.
Yeah.
And I go, I'm climbing this other building. Oh, it just happens to look like a Sister of Battle statue as well. You know, I don't know where we're at with it. But yeah, but there we go.
No, yeah, that looks cool. It's interesting seeing the more like human models, and because I'm so used to painting, I say so used to, even though I'm quite new to the old painting thing, like mainly painting a lot.
He is. Don't get me wrong. He is still very tall.
He's very tall, isn't he?
But he's very slender.
Yeah, yeah. He's a skinny guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, no, looks cool. I'll be interested to see what you do with that.
Yeah, I don't think I'll do anything too crazy. I'll probably go quite similar to the box art, I would have thought. But yeah, very happy when it turns up. The only thing I did think was, I thought, I've got to be honest, from the photographs, I thought this was going to be a bit taller. I thought he was going to be a bit taller, and I was quite surprised. I don't know when I seen it on the box. I just thought he maybe it was going to be more sort of about that height. I was quite surprised when it was all on that the Sister of Battle was quite so close to the bottom of it. But yeah, minor quibble. Yeah, but other than that, yeah, I think that's very cool. So that's my review of something new that I've come across.
There you go. Well, you waited long enough for it.
Absolutely right. I didn't have this beard when I signed up.
What is it? Your cells change like every 7 years?
Yeah, that's right.
Like
Yeah.
That? You know, so you're a seventh of the way to being a completely new Geoff.
Well, I hope because you picked the Orc, haven't you?
I did pick the Orc.
So the question is, because you picked the Orc, and then
I'll
that
get him
means
in like 3 months' time.
Yeah, and then it means that it gives you access to buying that one. Do you think you will?
No.
No.
I don't know. Like I said this last show. I was like, yeah, I don't think I will.
Okay.
And you were like, what? You buy everything? And I'm like, yeah, I've got a problem. But I'm not. I think like Space Marines. You know, I feel like at the minute a Space Marine is for me is like a great way of learning how to paint. Because there's so many tutorials out there, so many different ways to do them, and I can practice glazing and highlighting and this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
And whatever. I mean, I'm limited by my own imagination, basically, because I'd be like, well, just paint in black.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I'm good enough to do justice to.
Yeah, I know what you're getting at.
To the paint job, I think.
By the time you get around to getting it, you might be.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point. So maybe. Or maybe I'll buy one, paint it, and just purposefully not drill the gun barrel, and just be like, "Look, internet, in your face. I paid for that barrel.
A barrel troll."
Yeah. But yeah, currently.
No, you don't think you'll bother?
No, and also, maybe I don't quite like the models as much as. I wouldn't be as excited to paint that as like an Orc or
no, I get it. And because he will be
something else.
He will be relatively drab when it's all put together. You know, I'll probably chop up a load of bits of sprue and give it like a rubble sort of effect to hide the bits on the bottom. But
yeah,
I think there is by the fact of the pure design of it, there is only so much you're going to be able to do with it. It's not like you can go you can't really go massively to town on him because he's saddled inside a statue already, so it's a lot of it is already dictated for you.
So I guess you're gonna spend quite a bit of time. Well, you're gonna paint the front of him.
Yeah.
And then just be like, bloop.
And then absolutely right. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So you put him in
where
there.
Does that?
He goes through there.
He goes through there.
Through that one.
Oh, through this one.
Yeah. And then there's 2 points in the back that then line. She just comes down. See them.
You know what? I'm not even gonna bother.
Okay, that's fine.
See, I'll just destroy it. I'll destroy my own miniatures first.
But yeah, so
I'm such a mess.
Yeah, but there we go. So that's there he is for those. And I would say, a little bit of advice: if you are waiting to get yours and you're thinking, my timer has now run down on my Warhammer page, and you don't know how to get it. It's really a little bit ambiguous, and I have mentioned this to Games Workshop. It said, your free miniature is on the way.
Oh, you're right.
And I was like, oh, great. And then I just happened to be on a Facebook page, and I put, so I assume I don't have to do anything, my miniature's on the way. And someone went, oh no, you have to go in and like fake buy it.
What?
Yeah, exactly. They went, it says your miniature is on the way. Right? On the way suggests someone's literally putting it in a box and sticking a sticker with your name on it, doesn't it?
Yes.
Right.
Like
no.
when you order something normally.
Yeah. So what you actually have to do, you have to go into the shop, right, and pick Vindica Assassin. And then they'll be like, the normal one, and then they'll be like, oh, because it's you, Jeff, subscriber, here's the other one.
Oh.
So then you have to do like a purchase where there is no money, right? And then it gets better, is depending on how the cookies are set on your phone, it won't understand that you're buying something without money being spent. I ended up having to phone Warhammer to buy it. I had to get somebody to buy it for me over the phone at their end, basically, because I had cookies set that it just wouldn't allow me disable to be able to buy it.
I mean,
but it all said that the expression that got me was, I could have been sitting here in 4 years' time going, where's my miniature? Because it said, it's on the way.
Okay, so that...
No, it's not go into the shop and
Yeah.
order it. I thought it was a really terrible...
And there's no literature from Games
Well, they
Workshop to say that.
said, oh, well, have you... Well, the email explains it all. And I was like, maybe I'm shoddy, because it's well known that I can be shoddy. And I thought, maybe I'm being shoddy. Went in, no email. Couldn't find it.
Oh.
So, yes.
I mean, obviously, it's a stupid, broken system.
Well, the thing is, I understand, because the guy said, well, the problem being is people... Because I said, you took my address and everything at the beginning. And the guy said, oh, well, you know, we have to do it this way because since you gave us your address to where we are now, you might have moved.
Yeah.
And I said, I wholeheartedly 110% agree with you, but don't then put your miniatures on the way.
Yeah.
Because it's not on the way.
No, it should say you can now
go and order your
Warhammer Plus miniature. Yeah. Like, I mean, I'm surprised, but then also I'm not, because it's Games Workshop, because Warhammer Plus, they obviously thought, right, model. Okay, we've got the model. How are we going to give... Who cares? Let's just put this model, and then people can choose. How are we going to get... Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because on the day of Warhammer Plus being released, like, we bloody worked there, and it was like, oh, so warhammerplus.com is a nothing website. There's nothing there. You have to go to Warhammer TV or the Vault or...
Yeah. Because it's this catch-all statement, it's this catch-all title, but everything is still individual inside it, which is, yes, absolutely. So we're almost back to whinging about Warhammer Plus again, but
yeah, model's all right. I don't think I would purchase it.
Don't think you'll bother.
But like, it's cool. I'm excited to see you paint it.
Oh, that's right. But we'll see what we get with it. It might be something where I think I will be using all bar the moss. I think the Dirty Down paints will be getting brought into full effect to do it.
What I think you should do is get some green stuff and like model on some legs and tiny feet. and then it can... That's how it gets around.
It's just in the back, just a big pair of levers. Right then. But anyway, there you go, folks. If you haven't seen it already, there it is. And if you have got one coming and your timer is just about to run down, don't go sit there think someone's going to stick it in a box for you. You have to pull your finger out and go and do it yourself. And if you're in any doubt, phone Games Workshop, who I've got to be honest, the customer service on it was really good.
I do hear their customer service.
Yeah, their customer service is really good. And the guy who helped me with it couldn't have been more helpful. So he was, they got a big thumbs up from me from that. But I shouldn't have to be phoning them in the first place. It should have been simpler than that. So there we go. Our review. Hobby Hero.
We've getting the accolade this week.
Well, we've alluded to him in the past, haven't we? Well, I say alluded to. We've blatantly mentioned him in the past. Never mind alluded to him.
Yeah.
Mr. Richard Gray.
He is a sensation, isn't he?
Isn't he? He. If you've not looked at any of Richard Gray's work, again, it's that thing of him. We keep mentioning people who are utterly amazing as opposed to mentioning anybody who's more of a layman like ourselves. But sometimes you just got to appreciate the art for the art's sake. And Richard Gray, I think, definitely falls into that category. Some of his...
Yeah.
He did, especially stands out for me because it's my army, although we've not seen any of it on film as he is yet, is I'm a Death Guard player. And he did one of the Marines, the Death Guard Marines originally released for the Japanese Hero series, being Series 3. And it was the one that was carrying the Plague Spewer. And it looks like it's been painted onto a piece of canvas, doesn't it?
Yeah, the pictures at the end were phenomenal. Yeah.
There's so much colour and depth and work gone into it.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe it's on a 3D image.
Yes. Yeah, it was that good. Like the picture of it, it looks like an actual painting.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah. Like it's full on just art at this point.
The thing about that miniature as well is the fact that it's not just the fact that it's beautifully painted. Some very unusual ideas in it. He painted, as most of you will know, Death Guard wear their accent colour next to the green, if you do them in the standard green, is a dirty brass, which is sort of had verdigris and dents and chips and all of the things that sort of goes alongside this army that's in full decay mode. And then decides to go, do you know what colour's the ideal colour to be painting? Bronze on the armour of these? Human flesh. And literally started doing things like Cadian flesh tones and Kislev flesh to be able to create brass.
Is it all non-metallic metal that he's doing then,
Yeah.
I presume? Yeah.
And he did the whole thing. He did all of the brass was just using skin tones.
Wow.
You think, because you always think of like brass, you think, well, it's not that far away from, it's near gold, and then that means yellow, and
yellows
and he's just gone completely the opposite way. He's gone into, he's buried into the pinks and the reds of the brass, and it's really, I just sat there watching it going, and then he does these things where he sort of goes, right, I'm going to stipple a bit of light effect, and he goes tap 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 tap, and then you're going, that's just phenomenal. But this is the problem with him, he's brilliant, but he actually is mildly infuriating because he's just so ridiculously casual.
Yeah. I mean, like I've watched, like I've been on a bit of a Horus Heresy binge recently, because I mean that's what a lot of the influencers have been putting out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Games Workshop have been putting them out, the tutorials and stuff. And like obviously I watched the Iron Warriors one because that's my jam. And seeing what everyone's doing, and yeah, he did his Blood Angels.
The Blood Angel that he did in an hour.
In an hour. And then the Imperial Fist one that he released recently, and yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, and again, like you say, he's so casual. Like when he's like, this is just a gaming piece. It doesn't need to be perfect, and it looks better than anything I've ever done. Like I love his version of like all right.
Yeah.
Like
I would literally cut one of my hands off for that level of all right.
Yeah.
I'd hold me model hand. I'd hold the model and bit with a claw to be able to paint that well.
Yeah. The man's got skill. Yeah, he's a big fan of his oil washes, I think, isn't he? And,
he does indeed. Likes his oil washes
and that kind of stuff.
But he does that thing which I love, is that when you know someone's really good, is that you have that sometimes you watch his miniatures and you're just going, oh, that looks a little bit all ropey and a bit all over the place. And then he just has that bit where he just pulls everything together in an instant. And you go, oh, that's just like phenomenal, It just seems to be that thing of going, that car's not going fast enough to jump the Grand Canyon.
Yes.
Oh, and it made it. And he's like that. He's going, I'm not quite sure where you're going there. And he goes, oh, I'm going to put all this oil wash on. And then he goes, and you go, oh, Jesus Christ, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
So
lots of like unifying elements to his painting.
If you paint to an amazingly high standard, and we've talked about this before, it's lovely that you're here, because even though you're not probably learning much, but if you can paint to a really high standard and you can look at Richard Gray's work and go, oh, I know how to make something out of that, I know how to copy that, I know how to take that pieces of advice on board and do something with then good on you. But for me, I look at his stuff and think, yeah, that's not even, that's like, I feel like I'm a chimp sitting there watching somebody doing robotics. Do you know what I mean?
For plebs like you and me, Jeff, Richard Gray is aspirational.
Yes,
is the word I would use.
Yeah, definitely aspirational, not inspirational.
Yeah,
but he is another one of those. A bit like when we talked about Marco last time. He is somebody that if you can't mimic what he's doing, or you don't take any good handy hints and tips from him, or full-on tutorials from him, at the very least, it's worth just tuning in to just admire somebody at the top of their game and enjoy it just for the sake of art, because it's not just pushing paint around a 3D image. It is in its own way a piece of art. Where,
it is.
Even at our standards, you're still producing art. If you weren't great at watercolours, but you were putting it on a canvas anyway, you'd still be producing art. So to see somebody at the top of their game doing art at that level, be it a toy soldier or not a toy soldier, it's still great to watch. And he's just really got a lovely, placid, laid back way about him as well.
Yeah, like with a lot of the videography for the YouTube tutorials. I mean, he shows his palette.
Yes.
Tick.
Yeah,
Tick.
absolutely right.
Well done, Richard. You show the consistency of your paints, which means, as an educator, you have my respect. As someone, I just live off of those sort of tutorials. That's like my bread and butter. But it's. I mean, you don't see like him, but like
no. I've only ever seen him in photo. I tell you, the first time I seen Richard Gray was a photograph of him when he came in, when there was my box of artist opus brushes. There was a picture of him on there.
Was there?
Yeah, of the list of artists that used his stuff, and there was a photograph of him there. That was about the only time I think I've ever seen him.
It's quite interesting on the the Heresy videos that Games Workshop released with the interviews with the
he was there, wasn't he?
Because he was there, but you were like seeing lots of the voices for the first time, like Pete the Wargamer.
Yeah.
Like seeing him for the first time, and I was like, "You're younger than I thought you would be."
He's got a really like mature voice as Pete the Wargamer, hasn't he?
Yeah.
But Richard sort of looked exactly like I thought he was going to look, if I was being honest. That sort of.
I can't remember.
Yeah. Well, there you go. In the nicest possible way, just a really ordinary sort of sort of guy, just sort of with quite a laid back way about things. But he's definitely worth your time. Go and have a look. And if you're that way inclined, he has a Patreon as well. So I imagine there's some real juicy goodness behind there. I may have a cheeky little sign up just to sit there and gasp and realise how awful I am at my hobby.
I mean, it's like there's I can't remember the name of the guy, but there's a curve where you start doing something and you think, oh, I'm like doing really well at this, like I'm really good, and then you continue to improve, but then as you learn more, you realise how good people are. And I had it when I played guitar and when I started climbing. Like, you learn Wonderwall and you're like, oh my god, I can play like a really famous pop song. I'm great. Oh yeah. And I was like 11 at the time. So please cut me some slack. But then you're like, oh, actually, like Joe Satriani exists, and like all of these other incredible like guitarists, and then we're climbing with all these athletes, and you think like, oh, I've progressed from here to here in this time, but then to progress from there to there is like astronomically bigger. And I think like just watching somebody that good with such a command of like all the colours.
Well, is that sort of expression, isn't it? I'm probably slightly mad. The more I learn, it makes me realise how little I know.
Yes, that's it. And I think like that's why. I mean, I'm always quite critical of my work, and I say like I'm crap. Is because I'm like comparing myself to the Richard Grays in the world. And
well, just think if YouTube didn't exist, you would only compare yourself to what you've seen in the cabinet of your local Games Workshop shop, and you might be feeling quite happier about your work.
Interestingly, when we were there, we went to Warhammer World, and
we did.
And I had a look at some Iron Warriors, and I was like, I mean, there was a full army there, but I was like, mine aren't any worse than this.
Yeah, absolutely right.
And like I've done I put a bit more effort into my hands and stripes than that. But that's an entire army, and I'm just painting like one thing.
Yeah.
And all that sort of stuff. Like, I mean, and it's taken me bloody forever to paint it. I think like, even if I'm not gonna replicate one of those tutorials, they're done in such a way that they're engaging, they're informative, and even if I'm not going to paint that miniature, there's something I can take away from it.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's great. I think he's fantastic.
Yeah, he really is. He really is. He's just. It's just. There's just such a. There's just a richness to the work, isn't he?
Yeah.
There's a real richness and a warmth to what he produces, and just stippling on some light effects that just looks like he makes it look like the easiest thing in the world, and you know it really, really isn't. But he's like I said last time with Marco. If you just want to go and appreciate the art, go and have a look at him, and if you can go there and get some hints and tips out of them, well done you. But Richard Gray, definitely gets a recommendation from us.
Absolutely, go and check him out. Yeah. He is sublime.
That's a good choice of words. I like that. It's a very good choice of words. So then we've gone to town on Warhammer Plus. And
we've made our own Warhammer TV shows.
Yeah, we've pretty much started it now.
Obviously, ours are going to be way better than whatever they can do.
I'm going to phone Netflix, because if you watch Netflix, it thinks they just green light anything. Have you ever seen that episode of South Park where they phone Netflix?
Yeah, I think so.
He goes, hello Netflix, you're greenlit. Maybe that's the way to go.
Yeah.
So we've had a little bit of a go at Warhammer Plus, because mainly we've given you a number of goes now, and you haven't pulled your finger out, so you were due a bashing tonight, really.
At what point do we stop? I mean, this is it. When do we
That's
like,
when
no, Jeff, stop, it's already dead. And we're just going to be, let's tune into Jeff and Pat, and they're just going to bash Warhammer Plus this week.
If you look, we do this show for you. We do it for our opportunities to have a good natter, because me and Pat don't see each other all week other than when we come here for this. So we have a good natter about these things. You're hearing us pouring our brain out to each other. It's not rehearsed. It's not scripted. If you want to write it and go, for love of God, stop talking about Warhammer Plus, I'm not saying we will, but we'll take it on board. If you want the show to be 45 minutes shorter, get in touch and tell us to stop talking about Warhammer Plus.
Every time I feel a bit down, I just click on Warhammer Plus, and then instantly just feel better about my own life.
Well, at least it's doing a service for you at the very least.
It could be worse. Could be Warhammer Plus.
Or even to if there's something we don't talk about and you would like us to talk about, get in touch and we'll do our best if it's within our sphere of awareness, our wheelhouse, any of those sort of
life coaching, cooking. All that stuff.
How to set up a good OnlyFans page. Any of those things, So, I think that's pretty much on that. I think that might be us done. As we always say, just paint your next miniature better than the last one. And again, thanks for all the subs and the comments, and goodbye. Bye.
See you later.